All right, I need to change my camera. And then we should be ready. So let me change my camera. That's the wrong one. There we go. Okay, another week. Here we are. Let me make sure I can see you guys in the chat. Yes, Jana, can you hear me this time? I think I see where I am. I'm totally, this is the manicure of an artist. Let me just say, this is disgusting, but it's all for good because I made some great video today and I'm ready to make this week's Hitchhiker journal. I'm super excited to show you guys what I figured out this afternoon. I've been wanting to combine my Hitchhiker journals together because I know I keep saying that I might take them apart and use the paper, but they're kind of a fun collection of my weeks. And I don't know, I didn't want to tear them apart. I wanted to figure out if I could sew them together into a book. And so this is one of the lessons that I put in Watch.Learn.Play this week. You can find it there later on tonight or maybe tomorrow because back in the land of the slow internet, it is taking a little while to load it. So anyway, this is what I'm going to be doing with mine. And it's a binding technique that I can add to it. It doesn't I can sew the next one onto it when I'm done with it. So I really like that. And here we are with this week's, and we're still on inks. This is the last day. Tomorrow is the last day of the month. And this is the last session of making my Hitchhiker journal with inks. So let's do it upright. I think I definitely want to do some resist in the background. So I'm looking around for some white crayon. And what am I going to do with the white crayon? I think I'm just going to make some marks. When in doubt, make circles, says Andrea. I'll make some scallops on the edges. I don't know. And sometimes it's hard to see, but sometimes these don't actually show up depending, but let's just go for it. I'm going to play with a little bit of acrylic ink. I'm going to go with shocking, not marine blue to begin with, but olive green. And just repeating that practice of the loose orbs or circles here. Maybe I'll do 3 of them, differing sizes. I am going to activate this, but not with a spray bottle. I'm going to do something maybe a little bit different. I'm taking a pipette and adding a little bit more water to the ink. I'm going to come along with a paintbrush. And just continue to pull that color out. You know why I'm not doing it with a spray bottle? Oh, because I didn't see mine here. All right. I do like it with a spray bottle too. I just, out of convenience, I do love that. I never get tired of that. And that sap green is just a yummy color, isn't it? I think I need to add some marine blue to it because I think that this is just a gorgeous color combo. And I'm going to spritz it with a little bit of water. Oh my goodness. This is my favorite thing in the world. And the thing is, the hard part is to stop because the next splash, right, may be magical like it just was, or it could be too much. So resist the urge to completely saturate and let some magic happen on the surface. And then I'm again resisting the urge to keep messing with that because boy, oh boy, that's gorgeous. And I know that I do like having some, I know I love having some white space on my pages, especially if I'm in a lot of situations throughout the week that I just sort of calm my mind by doodling or drawing and that sort of thing. So I like the white space. What else could I do on here? Because we don't want to just get into this, like, how many minutes am I in? 6 minutes? And I'm like, ooh. Hi, everybody. I'm looking at the text now. I mean, the messages now. They look nice. Collect my weekly recipes. I file them away. Oh, that's fun. Someone uses them for these Hitchhiker journals for the weekly recipes and then files them away to keeping a tab on the budget. And so it's just really fun to have them together as a book. Love the sap green. It never goes with the colors I've already used. Maybe I'll need to start with it. Yeah, that's a great idea, Sally. The sap green is such a beautiful color. And then Barbara says, love the feathering. I know, Barbara. I just can't get enough of that. I wish that it stayed that way. I think I have to be way more patient. And then some of this really beautiful swirling that's happening down here, as soon as this water evaporates, it doesn't necessarily keep it. Start another page and leave this one. I know that is a temptation to start another page and just leave this one. And when I'm doing this on my own and I'm not, doing it for a live and if I wasn't being recorded right now, I probably would. I'd probably set it aside and start another one. But there's something about having these limitations like I do right now, having, I'm on here, I'm not letting myself overthink. And yes, I may push my work past where I may have been better to stop. I'm trying to phrase that nicely, kindly to myself. But I also learn a lot by doing that. And so when I am not thinking as much, or overthinking, I should say, and I allow myself to continue playing when I'm tempted to say, oh, I just want to stop because it's so beautiful, I'm actually learning new things, right? And sometimes the next step is even more beautiful because I kept going with this. Like, I'm really having fun pulling these puddles of ink out from the orbs that I started. And had I stopped or set it aside, I wouldn't have been playing in these puddles. And I like playing in the puddles. So I tell you what, though, it's this is turning out great. Sometimes when the next thing that I do doesn't turn out great, or I'm like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. And it's very tempting to say, see, I should have stopped. But in the long run, I like to embrace just moving on and continuing to push through. Because I think I learn more that way. And that's my answer for today. I'm also learning it's not always the way I do it, but today that's what I'm doing. Oh, good, Sally. I'm glad. I just looked over and saw that she said, what you're saying makes perfect sense, even if you can't find the words. Thank you, Sally. Yeah. I think you understand what I'm saying. So these little rivers of ink where they're getting super diluted because there's more water out here and the darker areas. I mean, this is just magic. I love the puddles and play and curiosity and flipping it around now and letting it drip and still moving it. I know that this paper doesn't like to be super saturated or stay that way. Like, I can't necessarily move things or drag things through. I can see the fibers of the paper lifting a little bit. And so I'm going to get it dry at this point because I definitely want to keep Okay, I know. I say I'm going to get it dry, and then I think some other thought pops into my head. But wait, before I dry it, there's more that I can do in the puddles that's not scratching or dragging. So I'm not going to use a brush, but I'm going to stamp something in there, and I'm going to move some of this color around. So I just so happen to have some little things that are circle shaped because I was using those in my earlier filming. So I'm just going to drag some of those through the ink, the puddles that are still on here, and see if I can add some more layers. There's some tiny, this is the end of a paintbrush that got wrecked, or the handle fell off. It's somewhere. I don't know where it is, but I like the really, really dark areas. And then when you press it down into an area that's been sprayed with water, you get a little more of that feathery action going on. This is where I can tend to overdo it. Because I'm not really, well, and that's the thing. We're not really looking at it as an overall composition, because it is going to be, you know, what is that? 1/6 of this. All right. What else? I've got I like the big fat round. Oops. Well, good thing that's the same color. There was some ink in there. I don't know why I brought these from San Jose, but I actually pulled out a box of spray inks yesterday, which I absolutely detest. I really despise spray inks most of the time. And so I don't know why I brought them up here. I think because I knew that this was the end of ink month, and I might as well pull them out because I'll use them now and probably not most other times. But I was pouring them, and I was painting from, like, I took the top off. So I may actually get this dry and show you a little bit of that as well. So some spray inks may be coming up, and then I'll try and get a little bit under the camera of what I did with the spray inks. I was putting them on poster board, which is kind of a little bit heavier than manila folder. But it has, my poster board that I had actually has one glossy side. So I was really curious how the ink sprays would stick to that glossy paper. Sometimes it's pretty cool what happens when you use glossy paper. So anyway, it was interesting. And then I was not worried about wasting any of the supplies because I don't like the sprays anyway. So just open the top of a spray if it's not working as a spray, and pour it into a container, and then use it with a paintbrush or a pipette or anything else, right? Put it into one of those fine liner bottles like this, and then, dribble it around. So if you are like me and don't really like sprays, like ink sprays, because the spray nozzles always end up getting clogged and it makes it very frustrating, definitely still use the ink. Just don't try and use it as a spray. All right. I'm really liking the way this is drying. And so as it's drying, I'm lifting it and letting some of the olive green that I used really granulates. It's gorgeous olive green. So I'm seeing a lot of little pigment crumbs down in there. It's hard to see on the camera, I know, but definitely my happy colors here. But I think that I'm going to need to add some little pops of orange in there. So we'll see how I can do that with maybe some of the ink sprays. I did find one out of an entire box of ink sprays that I tried actually still sprayed through the nozzle. So, all right, I've got it mostly dry. I'm going to do that technique where I take the paper towel roll and roll it across and dab up. So you'll see a difference in these dark areas. And I finally went to Home Depot and restocked on my shop towels. These are the greatest studio towel. I will use one of these paper towels for ages until it becomes so stiff that it doesn't work anymore. But I'm just going to roll the paper towel roll right across the top so that I'm not actually, smudging it or smearing it. I'm just blotting it. But you can see the ink has lifted out of where it wasn't dry. And then I can have the shop towel as a cleaning tool, or like wipe my brush and that sort of thing on there. But shop towels I love, and they don't transfer pattern to the surface. So all right, I'm going to go grab some sprays and we're going to see if we can get something to work. Here's my box of sprays. And yeah, they're kind of all just scattered in here. But this is what I ended up using, this Marabou Art Spray. It's an acrylic spray. And this is the one that still sprayed yesterday when I was trying this. So I'm going to see if that is still the case today. And I'm going to spray a little bit. So it has the ball inside of it. So shaking it up. And see, that worked. And then if I don't want to keep building up a lot of this ink on the top, I can blot this off. Sometimes I'll flip it over and transfer it. Why don't I do that on the inside? Because I know that the inside is going to show as well for some part of it, right? Because I'm going to cut the inside open. So I'm just going to go ahead and press it because it's picking it up on the back side of the paper. So basically I'm cleaning off. There we go. Cleaning off this stencil by picking up the excess ink on the back of the paper. And that looks really sweet too. I might actually like that up here. So I'm going to take that, lay it over. Now it's the inky side down and just use a brayer. So yeah, I kind of dig that. Again, don't want to overdo it. Oh, let's get a little more, maybe just a little spray like so. And then I can run the bottle through and get a little more orange over here on this side. Turning the bottle so that it makes kind of a messy circle here. Yeah, the blue shop towels, you can wash them and they will last a long, long time. So I find that even if they're more expensive to begin with, they will for sure last a long time for you. Each one of them, right? So pressing into that spray a little bit more. I think I want to get this dry because I want to see what it looks like in page form, and I will set up some of the days of the week. I like the wax resist underneath where it's showing there. So this spray that I use, this Marabou, I want to say it ends up staying shiny. Oh yeah, it says waterproof. And so when you spray it on, it's an acrylic spray. You spray it on and then it becomes waterproof. Brightly colored, water-based acrylic spray for light, porous surfaces such as canvas, paper, wood. intermixable, water thinnable, quick drying, light, fast, and waterproof. Shake well before use. After use, pump warm water through the spray head and rinse the nozzle to prevent. Oh, have I ever read this in my life? No. To prevent misters from blocking. Spray acrylic. Okay, so then it goes into the different, yeah. So yeah, when I read the instructions, it says to rinse the nozzle after, and I clearly didn't, and these sprays have been sitting in a box for probably 3 years, but it's still sprayed today. So anyway, that's a 2 thumbs up for the Marabou art sprays. And I may or may not have them in my shop. If I don't have them listed right now, I could very easily make that happen. But don't wait for me. Like, you can, if you need to have the Marabou art sprays, go find them. But they may be on aworkofart.com very soon. So just getting the rest of this dry. And like I said, I think that it stays a little bit shiny. So I'm keeping that in mind as I'm trying to dry this and seeing it shine a little bit. It actually is dry. So we're going to do the fold, which is in half both directions. And one direction and then the other direction. I am so excited about having these combined together into a little booklet because I don't know, it just feels good. I think because I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with them, but then as I start to flip back, I'm like, man, I really keep track of stuff in here. So it's just another, pretty recollection of my days. And I'll tell you what, it's so much more fun to write a to-do list on pretty paper, pretty inky paper, rather than a Post-it note or, God forbid, digital. My husband is such a digital list. We use Keep, Google Keep, and keep a list going between us for grocery shopping or whatever, but that's the only way that I'll use a digital list is when I have to do that. All right. Thanks for coming, Deb. All right. I am doing the last snip here. And I cut it on the white side because I know that that makes it easier to see, but then I need to reverse each one of those folds. So where it was a peak, it's going to be a valley, and where it was a valley, it's going to be a peak. And then I will open it up so that all the color is showing on the inside. I always lock in one of these sides just so that everything else tends to turn nicely. So I'm going to glue this side together. Let me go grab some glue stick. Learning where I put everything here. It's fun starting from scratch and deciding where I want to put things this time. All right, so as long as one of these panels is well glued down and the edges line up, then everything else seems to be a little less fiddly. So I'm just making sure that they line up. And then the part that I'm going to use to cut out so that I have a little split is the top of this other side. This ends up being the way that I like it the best. And this is the way I do it most often these days. So we have the front cover, first spread, second spread, and between the second and the third spread, this folds out. There's a third spread and then the back page. So it will cover, for me, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And this will be my Hitchhiker journal for the week of October 1 to 7. So I'm going to put that on the front, October 1 to 7. And how am I going to get that on? That's the question. That is a good question, Andrea. What are you going to do? How am I going to do? I'll put my glue stick away. And while I'm thinking, I could just stamp it. Yeah, I'll do that. I know. I'll show you a little mini version of what I put in the classroom today, because it's paper towel printing. I'm going to do a little mini version. And I'm only going to do it with one color. So in the classroom, I did this with 3 colors, and it's not in there quite yet because my internet's still slow. So it's uploading right now, but I'm going to do this with one color and show you how to make my own printing plate. So I'm not going to have to use this ink pad. I'm going to stamp with acrylic ink. So I want to get this marine blue, a dropper full of that, and a pipette of water. So we've got an inky, watery mixture here. And then I'm going to saturate the paper towel. My hands are going to get really, really blue. But I'm turning this into a little printing plate, a little inky. It's like an ink pad that you're holding in your hands. If that makes sense. So it's saturated. It's not dripping when I hold it up. That's the consistency. You want it to be all nice and inky, but not so saturated that it drips when you lift it up. So there's our ink pad. And what did we say? It was October. So I'm going to stamp right through it. O, and this may be a total bust. C, T for October. I'm holding my breath. Hope it works. Hope it works. Mildly. I'll fill it in. It's 1 to 7. Let's see. All right, so moderately, it's always hardest to get, I should have known this. It's always hardest to get the good print out of it when it's super juicy at the beginning. So I'll show you what it's supposed to do. I'm going to take just a stencil over top of it and roll it. And then you get that kind of print. So now that it's lost a little bit of its ink, let me try it again. Where did I just set that? Oh, right here. I'm going to try it down here at the bottom. It's a little less juicy down here now. A little bit better. That's the 7. 1. Hard part is keeping my eye on where I stamped it last. That worked a little bit better. When you're trying to get something exact, of course, it's not going to work as great, but it's kind of fun to do things stamped into it. Let me go grab a stamp too. So like here's a foam stamp. Press into it. It'll make polka dots. Let me do that on another page. So now I can open this up. I could have opened it up to begin with, but I thought that it was a little bit too wet. So that puts the polka dots right over top of, I'm pressing through this inky paper towel. I want to do a little bit more on the inside. I'll use the other side of this design. These are just foam stamps that I made. So anyway, and you can keep stamping. Maybe I'll do the days now. We've got 1. So I'll just use this. Here's the 1. Two. 3. 4. That didn't show up. And 4 will go right here. It's a good thing I'm an imperfectionist because this is not a perfect process. But I like imperfect things too. 5. 6. That doesn't show up very well either, but I can draw over it. And 7. Now you see why my manicure was the way that it was earlier today or earlier tonight. And this is the stencil that I designed for this is the stencil that I designed to put my weekly 6, my daily 6, sorry, my daily 6 on here. So I'm going to see if I can kind of transfer some of these lines just by rolling over the stencil. Oh, well, that kind of covered everything up. So let's not do that. Yeah, that's okay. I'm done with the paper towel now. Boo. 3 out of 10. Do not recommend. All right, what am I going to do now to make that something that I like? How about some white acrylic paint? I'll get rid of the stamps. I'm done with those for now. All right. Nothing a little white acrylic paint can't cure. All right, so then if I put this back over top, Is that what I want to do? Yeah, I think I do, because I think I actually want these spaces to be even more white. So I'm going to come in with makeup sponge and add a little more white over top. Because what's on there is the acrylic ink and water mixture. Because the acrylic ink has been broken, the binder in it has been broken down with water. It is lifting up, so it's coloring my paint a little bit more. I know, Barbara, what would happen if you guys, I love doing this so that you kind of see the way my brain works is I kind of back myself into a corner and then I fix it and I talk us through it as I do it. This is my favorite thing to do. It's just free-flowing play. And the only thing that I knew that I was doing was creating my Hitchhiker journal and that I wanted to use ink. So the rest of it just kind of happens. But yeah, I like that because I'll definitely write over those. This is matte white acrylic. I'm a fan of the Blick matte white acrylic, and honestly, they're matte paints in general. I've been enjoying using. I'll get that dry. And then I think I want to highlight the numbers a little bit more, make them pop out a little bit more, because that just didn't necessarily stand up that way that I wanted. My youngest and my middle child, Emily and Andy, are headed down from Seattle right now. So I'm excited to have the kids in the house in a little bit. It's Friday evening. All right. I am going to outline with a good old Stabilo graphite pencil. And basically, I'm just making these numbers stand out a little bit more, as it's easier for me to know what day of the week it is. I do use this. Barbara knows I use this. I brought it with me when we went antique shopping in Aurora. And I make notes for myself for later on in the week, or appointments that I have, or things that I need to remember. I use the inside for other notes or lists or just doodling in general. But it does, it's a nice small size. It's very portable, and I do use it. What's funny, I'm learning about myself, is that just as soon as I have a new thing that's working for me, I tend to try and sabotage myself and I get off track of using it. So I just have to keep fluid in finding the new thing that's working for me. And that's what this is. I used to put this kind of stuff in my daily creative practice journal, and I really prefer that journal being more art and less lists and daily notes and things like that, even though for years that's all I use that journal for. I'm enjoying doing this on the kind of a smaller, like I said, Hitchhiker. It just kind of, it can be added into the daily creative practice journal or something else. The shape on the right of it reminds me of a pear. Oh, I'm sure I've turned the page from the pear. Jan, I just looked over at the chat. Yeah, there's fun shapes in here. It'll be really fun to come back in and draw around things or see the shapes in the marks. I discovered that we have a neighborhood. Well, we're out in the country, so there's a neighboring farm that has cats that are coming over and hanging out. Last night, I opened up the door to my studio downstairs, which is attached to the garage, and something went tearing out of the garage. There's a cat door in one of the garage doors on the far end, went tearing out. At first, I thought it was a raccoon, but it went fast. And I don't think raccoons go really that fast. I mean, I know they can, but this was fast, like lickety split. And then I started putting all of the dots together. My cat food that's up here in the studio was strangely, a lot of it was eaten. Bee doesn't really have that big of an appetite. So I was like, why is all this cat food gone? I think this cat has been finding its way into the studio. We now have the cat door blocked off, so it can't do that anymore. But it's because I don't want a stray cat in here when Bee is in here. So anyway, just outlining these, and then I think I'll be done for the week. There's no dash in this set, so I always just turn the eye sideways and make that be my dash. I'm doing a little bit of a drop shadow, so I'm making the right side and the bottom side a little bit heavier. And that'll make these letters feel a little more dimensional on the page. And I may or may not activate that pencil with water or matte medium. If you do that, it does make the Inktense pencil, not the Inktense, the Stabilo pencil darker, more saturated. But I think that looks pretty good. Let's see. Tiny brush, if I were a tiny brush. Actually, even better than a tiny brush is a flat brush like this. This little angle, it's like an angle shader. I don't know, this is a very inexpensive one. Sometimes the kids' very inexpensive plastic handle brushes are my favorites. So I'm just activating this with a little bit of water, but it feels like this brush is too big. But when you activate it with a little bit of water, it darkens it up ever so slightly. I like the way that it looks a little more painterly. You kind of can get some puddles going. And then it starts making it feel a little more dimensional, like it's got this little shadow. It's just popping off the page. Yes, Sally, the raccoons are like that here too. I don't think that they're just kind of lollygag along unless they think they're in danger. Maybe they're on their way to food when they're moving that fast. So I'm gonna, if I get too much of this graphite on here. Yes, Barbara, there are all kinds of critters near here. And yes, Jana, this is Bee's territory. And so I am helping her protect it by closing off that cat door. We would never necessarily let Bee roam where she would need a cat door into the garage. The previous owners did. But Bee is pretty much inside all the time. And if she's ever outside, it's because we're outside working or sitting on the porch or whatever. So she's within sight. So I do like taking this extra time to activate the Stabilo pencil. It does act as a nice little drop shadow there. I like doing it with water as well. Sometimes I do this with matte medium to make it really stay and not move. If I'm planning on putting lots more layers around it and I don't want that graphite to move around, I would set this with like matte medium on my brush instead of just water. But because I know I'm only coming back over this with marker and pencil and making notes and stuff, that I'm not worried about it moving around. I just want it to be more visible. I like it. And that spray did pretty good on there. It is a little bit glossy as I hold it. I kind of shine it under the light. I can see that. It's going to be a fun week to draw around things and add more to the pages. It is marine blue, and olive green, marine blue and olive green. I said that I wasn't going to use marine blue, but I ended up using it. So I started with sap green this time, and I came back in with just drops of the marine blue. I did the circles in the sap, and then I did just droplets of marine blue. So that's this. But those two colors looked gorgeous together. And then the orange spray was this Mirabeau acrylic spray. And the color on this is tangerine. So that was fun. I have a new journal for a new Hitchhiker journal and this September, let's see, this is last week's, the September journal. Yes, it is olive, Sally, not sap. It's olive green. This is the journal that I did last week, and I know that the audio did not work. I'm working on maybe doing a video for Watch.Learn.Play that has a voiceover of that so that I can talk you through what I was doing, because I was playing with walnut ink last week, and these are some shimmer sprays, which I'm usually not a shimmery girl, so that was last week. And then the inside of this, I didn't get to any place where I needed to doodle on the inside of this last week, but it still has some space that I can add to. And then most of it was just, my notes of noting which Facebook Marketplace thing am I picking up today? And notes and things that I did so that I can keep track, because these days go by and I don't even remember what I did from one day to the next. But when I look at my Hitchhiker journal, I sure do. Yeah, the shimmer, Sally, with the walnut, it really was stunning. It was beautiful. Very unlike my usual colors, which I like. I love swinging out and doing different things, but the walnut does have a little bit of a shine too, and I'm sure that's because it has the walnut ink does end up drying with a little bit of a shine to it. All right, it is time for me to get this blue off my fingers and go in and make up the second guest bed for my second kid who's coming today. We've got only one guest bed made up. So I am headed off to do that. Thank you guys for watching, for being with me. I know I'm cutting it a little bit short today, but there was pink in there. It was, and I like pink. It was like a rosy, but there's no purple in there, that's for sure. But it is kind of a rosy pink. Yeah, it is pretty. All right, that's it for this week. Have a good one, everybody. Let's see.